So, welcome everyone. My task in this short time this morning is to provide those in the audience, perhaps unacquainted with the special collections of the Getty Research Institute, a sense of what is here that relates to the topic of our conference this weekend. One recurring comment from scholars visiting the Getty Research Institute is that though they arrive here with specific projects in mind, after delving into the special collections, they inevitably end up someplace completely different than where they thought they would be. Let me assure you that this morning's overview will be less such a detour and more a brief tour of a few highlights. If I nevertheless begin with this observation, it is because the question of dépaysement, as raised by Rita Ader yesterday, is actually quite an appropriate starting place for our consideration of Surrealism and Latin America. After all, the movement, as defined by André Breton, has always sought out transporting experiences, beginning with the exaltation of the imagination and the marvelous in his founding manifesto of 1924. Surrealism's turn to Latin America very early in the movement's history. The French surrealists' anti-colonial politics went hand in hand with a keen fascination with the cultural production of the non-European world, the Americas included, as sources of the marvelous. Thus, in the same year that Breton, together with Paul Éluard and Yves Tanguy, organized a display at the Communist Party's exhibition directed against a Paris Exposition Coloniale of 1931, he and Éluard also auctioned off their collection of sculptures from Africa, America, and Oceania. And here you see the cover of the auction catalog, as well as illustrations of some of the objects. The occupation's literal and forcible transportation of Breton out of France and into exile in the Americas did not change his stance of calling for revolution, while insisting on art's freedom to follow its own trajectory, as can be seen from both the Trotskyist tract for a revolutionary independent art, co-authored by Breton in 1938, and the last lines of the typed manuscript of his 1946 Haitian lectures, where revolution is firmly located in the plastic arts, though the lectures themselves provoked a riot in the streets. In the case of artists of the Americas, that trajectory was often one determined by magic and the fantastic. And here is a two-page manuscript on Wilfredo Lam and the Antilles by Aimé Césaire that more or less reprises Breton's link of non-Western man and nature and magic. If we turn to the question of how Surrealism developed outside of Breton and the other French group members, the archives of César Moro become central. As we heard from Don Aidy's presentation, Moro, after arriving in Paris in 1925 and experimenting with different avant-gardes, here you see a photo of him in front of the Paris Opéra, as well as an early purist drawing. He became part of the French Surrealist Circle before returning to Lima in 1934 and mounting there the first Surrealist exhibition in Latin America. In 1938, he relocated to Mexico City, where he co-organized the large international exhibition in 1940. If today, I wanted to show you the passport image and also a collage, word and image collage. If today Frida Kahlo springs to mind when one mentions the topic of surrealism in Mexico, this exhibition did much to establish that reputation. Ironically, though Moro had a hand in the event, he personally did not think very highly of either her or Diego Rivera, as can be gleaned from this letter dated 27 January 1940, in which Moro sniped at Frida with glee after she failed to deliver drawings for La Tortuga's quest, writing to Westphalen that, quote, "You saw what happened with Frida for the drawing. She didn't do it on the pretext of her divorce, which didn't stop her from painting an enormous canvas for the Surrealist exhibition so that she could have a better and more visible spot." And following on the discussion of Moro's doodle-like drawing style and the question of fluidity, I also wanted to show this drawing from a 1940 sketchbook, which shows the kind of the ambiguity and the kind of the way that there's free association or automatism at work in his process. So much of Moro's legacy has been preserved thanks in no small part to two of his closest friends, Emilio Adolfo Westphalen, whose papers regarding surrealism in Latin America are also located here at the Getty, and André Coignet, who you see in this color snapshot from the early 90s. Coignet is in the middle. Westphalen, in his guise as publisher of Usas de la Palabra and the journals Las Moradas, and Amaru, provided Moro with valuable outlets for his work. And here you see reproductions from the last issue of Las Moradas, the double issue, with Moro's paintings as also one by Carlos Quispe-Assin. If the papers of Moro and Westphalen serve as a nexus of information on surrealist activity in Peru and Mexico, another node of documentation clusters around the journal Mandragora, founded in 1938 in Santiago de Chile. The bulk of the related material can be found in the papers of Enrique Gomez-Correa, one of the journal's co-founders, who in addition to being a surrealist, also trained as a lawyer and served in the diplomatic corps. The upper photo shows him with Serrano and the Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru in 1962. I think this is quite surrealist in itself. The archival holdings include artwork. This is a collage by Jorge Cáceres, photo documentation, and letters. This one is from Braulio Arenas, reporting that there are no signs of life in Latin America. Talk about Vivísimo, Muerto. And some of them are illustrated. Beyond that, we also have more discrete holdings that allow for a survey of the development of surrealism in different countries of the Americas, such as the journal Que, published in Buenos Aires between 1928 and 1930 by Esteban Dalid, an alias for Elias Petersburg, Adolfo Este, aka Aldo Pellegrini, and others. However, and also La Poesía Sorprendida. I've been working a bit with our Magritte holdings, actually, because we recently acquired a cache of Magritte letters. But it's interesting that the letters that we do have, which number about 200, are also found in our Latin American Surrealist collections, and I think this is what's really marvelous. And these are the letters that will be coming here. But, you know, the letters that we have in the Belgian side of things also tell us about what's going on in the Latin American side. And so in this way, not only do we have the marvelous and the closing of distances through the chance encounter, but also communicating vessels. And with that, I'd like to hand things off to Donna Conwell.